Sports Professor Rick Horrow. Happy New Year. It's Beyond the Scoreboard, the podcast and show that goes behind the trillion-dollar business, marketing, legal, development, deal-making aspects of sports. Happy New Year, everybody. You can hear some wind chimes in the background. It is in frigid Atlanta, getting ready for the college football national championship and All-South affair, the two neighboring states, Georgia and Alabama. Tickets are going for $3,000, maybe even more, and so it is another testament to college football that Nick Saban goes after Bear Bryant's record, and the Georgia story pretty good, especially with Kirby Smart, Nick Saban's assistant. We're going to talk a little bit more about college sports and college football, and by the way, just up front, a little bit different format, interview coming first, and then my top 18 for 18, the sports business, philanthropy, tech stories to watch in the new year, 18-1. We can also take a look at it if you want on NBCWashington.com, CSN Mid-Atlantic. Obviously joining us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Audio Boom, Stitcher, iTunes feed, and everybody else talking about the big business that is sports. During the year, we bring you interviews that you probably don't get otherwise, not only the local teams, but the national executives, managers, players, opinion leaders, the people who make sports what it is today, from an X's and O's affairs to a trillion-dollar boardroom affair. Let's start with Bob Stoops. Clearly timely anyway. Could have been a little more timely if the field goal wasn't blocked against Georgia, and for some reason Oklahoma would have held him out of the end zone. They'd have played Alabama. Clearly nobody disagrees that Alabama got the nod against Clemson and maybe reasserting itself as the dominant team of the decade again. But Oklahoma played a heck of a season, and Bob Stoops retires in June before the season starts, handing it over to under 35-year-old Lincoln Riley, who did a great job. But during his tenure, 190-48. He was also every Hall of Fame you ever want to get into. But more important, he is a good person, not just a good coach. His brother, offensive coordinator, his other brother, coach at Kentucky. And clearly their coaching life is above reproach. He has a lot to say, by the way, about football, about what he would do if he changes the NCAA. And just listen to how free he is to talk about those kind of things. And long coaching tree, Barry Switzer, Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma football, what it means to the state, what the NCAA means to him, what he means to the kids. Here's Bob Stoops. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, Inside the Boardroom, whatever you want to call it. This is an intersection of sports and business, but it's actually sports, iconic football, head coach beyond anybody's imagination. He's a humble guy, so he won't talk about the impact he's had on Oklahoma and the center of the sports universe, but I will. Bob Stoops, thank you very much for being here.
Rick, great to be with you. Good to be speaking to everyone.
Thank you very much. We're here on an auspicious occasion, by the way. Everybody's dressed up. Fields and Futures, they call it the bow tie ball. They're raising a lot of money for charity, not only in this region, but also nationally, to do fields and educate kids and keep kids in schools because of fields. So give us your perspective on that program.
Well, anytime you could have youth, teenagers involved in sports, it's going to get a positive arm around them, somebody to lead them, help them achieve. There's nothing more rewarding in life than to succeed, to strive for something, to work for something, and to be successful. And then there's lessons even if you're not successful in fighting for it. So it's a great thing. And again, I think the positive role models of coaches, other teammates, being a part of a team, it's all special at all. And it's proven fact that children that are participating in sports do better in school. They have more participation in school, less misses. It's always positive. So in the Fields and Futures group, they're building fields and giving equipment, hiring coaches, give more opportunity for all the youth, all the teenagers out there, and it's making a huge difference.
Huge difference, and also at a variety of levels. These are for high school kids and Pop Warner and young kids and anything in between. You told a story yesterday at lunch about what the fields and the locker rooms were like when you came to coach at University of Oklahoma before Joe Castiglione turned it around. Tell us about that.
Well, when I walked into the university, we had the worst locker room I've ever walked into, and that the perception of our players when they walk in that room is not positive. And same thing when these young youth walk out to a field that's all sticks and stones and isn't cared for, they get the feeling that no one really cares about them or they're not important, and that isn't the case. So when you can give somebody, we improved our locker room immediately, Joe Castiglione, President Bourne, and revamped everything we could to the level that we could, and it immediately changed our players' perception of themselves, that they felt worthy, they felt like, hey, we do belong here in big-time ball, and it changes your perception of yourself. And the same thing happens with building these fields and giving the youth something, a place to go and participate that's really cared for. All of a sudden, they realize they are important and people do care about them.
So you come here, you came from Iowa and Kent State, Kansas State, Florida. You knew about Oklahoma and you knew how important it was. What was your perspective coming here? Did you realize this was an opportunity of basically unparalleled potential to follow in the Wilkinson Switzer footsteps and build the brand?
Absolutely. I knew the strength of Oklahoma through the years, the decades of success. The tradition and history here was second to none. And I knew, done properly, that this was a job that you can compete for championships, conference and national championships. And I knew it was never a stepping stone job, that this was a destination job when done the right way. And fortunately, it's worked out that way.
So 190 wins later, now that you're gardening and not coaching, do you have any perspective on what the OU football program means to Oklahoma and the region?
Oh, absolutely. I lived it for 18 years, and now 19, he's still, attached to it to some degree. I get it, and there's a lot of identity that is attached to us and our success and the way we do things, and it's been a great run. Appreciate the following, the fans, the support through the years. We've got a great fan base, and it's been a dream and a blessing to have been the coach here for the 18 years that I was here.
83, grad assistant at Iowa. That's when you started kind of the coaching career. How has the business of coaching changed since you started?
Well, there's a lot more. There's a lot of different ways now to communicate with everybody. There's a lot more different ways to communicate to recruits. There's more media. In fact, everybody's media anymore. So in the end, it's that way it's changed. A lot of it hasn't. Relationships and building relationships with players and the football part of it, a lot of it is still the same. Just connecting with your players and being able to motivate them and help them achieve, and that part of it remains the same.
Political question, not expecting a very specific answer. You haven't been away long enough. If there was a magic wand to change something in the NCAA relative to football, the business of, what would you consider doing?
Oh, geez, a couple of things. I would allow all players, for instance, the redshirt rule is outdated. More games now at the end of the year. In other words, now if you participate after the first 4 games of the season or the first third of the year, then you lose a year. So all of a sudden, Quentin Griffin, in our first year, we lost a couple, 3 running backs by the end of the season. In the last 3 games of the year, we have to pull Quentin Griffin's redshirt year to play the last few games. He was great, he did well, and it helped him the following year, but he lost a year of eligibility. The rule ought to say if you play at any time and you just play 4 games, games, whenever it may be through the year, you still are allowed to have a redshirt year. So then he could have played the last 3-4 games of the year and still had his year back. So changing the redshirt year, I think would be great. I'm in favor of the December 20 signing date. I think that's going to clear a lot of things up. I would change the overtime rule. Instead of putting the teams at the 25-yard line where you're already, if you have a decent field goal kicker, in position to get a field goal, I'd put it at the 40-yard line where you have to earn the field goal. And then, I think there'd be shorter overtimes as well. So those are just a few ideas that pop in my mind.
A few random ideas that he's had after having a little bit of a year to think about all of this perspective. What about the football playoff system? As we tape this, we're in the middle of exciting semifinals where OU is one of the four. Is it harder or easier to coach for national championship perspective, let's say in December and January, than it was when we had a one and done, or we had just polls winning a national championship and the like? Give us your perspective on today's playoffs.
Well, it's completely different. Back in the day when it was just polls, for instance, Oklahoma would go to the Orange Bowl all the time being Big 8 champs, and you might play the number 8, 10 team in the country. And then someone else who might be second in the country might play someone that's whatever. You can get different matchups. So you never had, or you rarely had, the two best teams competing against each other. So right or wrong, you could have two champions then, AP or coaches poll, and and it was a different path then. Now it's harder with the BCS, and now you're guaranteed to play in that bowl game. You're not going to play the 8th, 10th, 12th best team in the country and win and hope they vote you number one. You're going to play the best team, or one of the best.
Better system? You like the system?
I think it is better. I really am in favor of the playoff system now compared to the BCS where there were just two. I like the 4. I don't think there's room for more games to have 8. Everyone clamors for that, but all of a sudden now big conference championship teams games mean nothing, and you might as well get rid of those then and just go to an 8-team playoff, and I think it devalues the regular season, which it's a hot item when the whole country's watching maybe a team that's 3rd, 4th in the country playing in that last game. It's captivating. Now everyone wants to see if they'll lose. Another team may get in. We sort of have a playoff. Look at the conference championship games a week or so ago. Basically, some of those were elimination games. So in the end, I don't think there's time either in the players' schedule, academic schedule. Our guys have been in finals all this week. To add more games and college athletes that are 18, 19, 20 years old, and now they're, instead of playing just 13, 14 games, now it's up to 15, 16. I don't think it's correct. I think we're at the best spot right now, and let's face it. Hey, if you're complaining because you're the 5th or 6th team that didn't get in, well, you should have played better or you should have scheduled better. That's the bottom line.
Rumor has it that college coaches are coming to your house recruiting your kid. How does that make you feel?
Both my boys, Drake and Isaac, and it's been great. Glad they have opportunities, and we'll see where it goes. It's been different, but I'm used to it. I know I'm an easy interview at the house, and I lead them right into. I know what they want to deliver, how they want to present things, so I lead them right into that presentation with my questions.
My final question on this one is: how does it make you feel that you're no longer the head coach in the family? We got a guy who's head coach in Kentucky. He's doing pretty well, huh?
Yeah, he's great. Fortunately, got to see my brother yesterday. Was in town recruiting, and Mark's done a great job at Kentucky. They continue to take steps, forward, and back-to-back bowl games now, and they hadn't done that, I don't think, much before. So they're making strides and steps. I know he still wants more, and they've been right there in a couple of tight games with the chance to have more. So hopefully they can keep getting over the hump.
Finally, does Bob Stoops miss coaching, and what does he do 5 years from now?
Sure, I miss it. You don't do this your entire life and make a life change like that without missing it or going through some growing pains. But that doesn't mean it wasn't correct. I'm very satisfied and correct with my decision, but you need to learn how to do it. And this new life is different. It'll grow on you. It's growing on me little by little. So I'm in a good place. Still figuring figuring out, what my path will be. 5 years from now, who knows? This year, I still, very attached to the team, being that they're guys I recruited and all the coaches I brought here and hired and wanted to be around more and more, and probably will be even next year. I don't know. I'll have to wean myself off of it. So I'm really unsure what the future will bring.
The guy may want to wean himself off, but listen, he's done a great job. And, by the way, you positioned a great replacement, so it's seamless.
Well, it really is seamless. Lincoln Riley's done a fabulous job leading the team, and as a head coach and offensive coordinator, all of it together. I tell everyone, we left a strong and positive and strong team, capable team, but he's done it. All the year, the work he's done. I said this the other day, that I don't care if it's Clemson, Alabama, Georgia or Oklahoma. In June, you're not a Final Four team. That has to be worked, developed, earned, and fought for, and keep the focus through the year. And Lincoln's been able to get our guys to do that. So it's really exciting, and hopefully we can finish it.
Bob Stoops, you walk through Central Oklahoma, and he's an icon. He won't admit it, but he's an icon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Well, Bob Stoops clearly has a lot to tell us about the business of football and the business of life. That's very important, getting into what is going to be, in most respects, a heck of a 2018. Here are my top 18 stories to watch 2018. Won't go through all of them in major detail. And again, if you want to look at them, look at the website, CSN and NBC Washington. 18 to 1, let's start with 18. LeVar Ball and the Ball family seem always to be in the media, and only increases in 2018. Whether it's Lonzo being a top pick by the Lakers in the NBA draft, to Melo dropping close to 100 points in high school games, to the growth of the Big Baller brand, and LiAngelo being arrested for stealing while in China, then Melo and Jello going pro in Lithuania. Now talks of LeVar founding a junior pro league for top high school prospects. The circumstances all seem to fuel the Ball frenzy in 2018, and the Big Baller brand goes public. By the way, the ticker symbol, of course, BBB. 17. Social protests in sports, the Kaepernick effect. How will brands capitalize on this? Well, Rise, founded by Dolphins owner Stephen Ross, an organization doing what it can to ease tensions. Also of note, Fox Sports television property, The Power of Sports, is also shining a spotlight, as are other media as well. The focus is this. Kaepernick goes from an outcast to maybe an icon as the NFL comes up with nearly $100 million to spread throughout social programs with the help of the players. That is a big story to watch in 2018. Number 16. Major media rights locked up for the next 5 years or so for the NFL, NBA, MLB, and major colleges and NASCAR, but non-traditional rights will be leveraged in 2018 and moving forward. Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, YouTube continues to add sports programming, long-tail programming, live streaming, original content consumed in new ways will continue to innovate to match the shifting market. And look for one of the marquee digital properties to land a significant rights deal with a major league. Higher rights fees for all, good for the players, good for everybody else. Maybe not so good for the ticket-buying public. We'll see how that shakes out in 2018. Number 15, disruptive innovation cemented itself as a buzzword in business vernacular this past year, and for good reason. 2018 disruption penetrates the allied sports industries of tech and media. Growth rate of 30% per annum. It's a lot. More startups with more mergers and improved business climate translates into higher net worth for sports entrepreneurs and sports business. A big deal. That is good for fans, even if the television monopolies may not be. Number 14. Online education leader EverFi focuses on teaching, assessing, and certifying students in the critical skills that real life demands. Their digital course offerings address the issues that put pressure on students and their families and traditionally have not been taught with common standards or quality. They make sports headlines in 2017 by partnering with major sports leagues, teams, foundations, athletes, and entertainers. Look for more of the same in 2018, such as a new program, by the way, out of Schenectady, New York, in which the Schenectady Youth Hockey Association integrated EverFi's NHL and NHLPA Future Goals curriculum into their team's off-ice training. EverFi enhances communities and education programs like STEM, for example, at no cost to schools by partnering with organizations big and small. Big-time company to watch in 2018, and that's number 14. 13. Ever-growing popularity with emerging sports continues next year like the NLL. New commissioner Nick Sakevich, owners with deep pockets, and a digital-first mentality has put the NLL into a growth column for this year. Expansion in key markets like San Diego and Philly, other partnerships. This league looks like a comeback league and one to watch for 2018. Number 12, the NHL, holding its annual All-Star festivities this month in Tampa. One of the league's early Southern expansion successes. The NHL will most likely announce a new expansion team in Seattle as that city resolves its new arena plans. Also high on the agenda for the league as it wraps up close to 2 years of 100th anniversary celebrations is resolving its issue in another warm weather market, Arizona. And the league will no doubt closely monitor fan, sponsor, and player feedback after its absence in the Korean Olympics. Number 11, cryptocurrency. I don't even know what that means, but Bitcoin could have made you a lot of money. As I said last week, you invest 25 grand 2 weeks ago, you'd have made $1 million. Cryptocurrency believes they can increasingly provide a bigger impact on the pseudo-legal involved in currency transfer. Just look at Bitcoin and athletes getting involved in it too. That's the sports tie-in, number 11. Number 10. Last year inched a bit closer to gender equity in sports. And let's continue to move the needle in 2018. Social movements like Girls for STEM, LPGA's Indie Women in Tech Championship presented by Guggenheim Life, and other issues continue to elevate way beyond what it's been in the past. People really mean it now. Number 9, esports continues its ascension to the mainstream in 2017. Current high annual growth and an avid fan base of over 150 million. 150 million. Esports here to stay. Dedicated esports channel. Celebrities like Shaq, Ashton Kutcher, DJ Steve Aoki buying esports teams of their own. And with esports leagues solidifying themselves, new franchises, influential investors, and mega event deals and media deals with Twitch and other players, the stage is set for esports to grow globally. Look for esports to continue to be a hit with millennials and look for advertisers to try to take advantage of the connection. That's number 9. Number 8. Big data and econometrics will delve deeper into sports analytics to help properties and brands evaluate assets. The bottom line, people measuring everything. Add artificial intelligence, virtual reality, heightened programmatic ad buys, and the Internet of Things into the mix, and marketers will have more tools than ever to customize the fan experience in 2018. Look for companies to evolve real-time measurement systems that'll track corporate preferences, fan viewership, and the like. Measuring everything. Number 7, tax reform could hit collegiate athletes in a big way. While pro sports and communities dodged a bullet when the final landmark tax bill ultimately excluded the end to a tax-free stadium construction bond process, the revised plan on the books could hit college boosters hard by eliminating deductions for donations made to college athletic departments. Before the new bill, the IRS allowed 80% of such donations to be deducted as charitable contributions. This is no longer allowed, and athletic departments across the nation are bracing for the hit. Number 6, college basketball comes under the microscope in 2018 after last year's federal investigations revealed corruption involving recruiting practices. Remember our interview with Sonny Vaccaro. And look for the NCAA and investigators to leave no rock unturned as schools and coaches continue to be prosecuted. People will go to jail, a first for any NCAA investigation, and a larger probe into bribery in college athletics may ensue a turbulent year for college sports. Number 5, sports betting, an even hotter issue as leagues continue to look more aggressively for the next big revenue bucket in 2018. The question, $1 billion one, remains, will sports betting become legal in the U.S.? With the Supreme Court hearing a landmark case, Christie versus NCAA, Nevada and New Jersey are in. President Trump supported the issue in the past, and the NBA said it wants a federal framework for sports betting that's going to lobby Congress for regulation. Major League Baseball and the NHL have been quieter than the rest, but MLB seems to be moving closer to the NBA's position, and the NHL was comfortable enough with the issue to move a franchise to Vegas there, and there's still opposition, and it's not yet clear how the Supreme Court will rule. But sports betting will find a way to capture headlines as more money exchanges hands in legal forms of betting in 2018. That's number 5. Drum roll for number 4. Russia World Cup 2018 in the aftermath of USA failing to qualify U.S. soccer presidential elections, FIFA corruption dominates soccer headlines in 18. Extraditions and prosecutions took place of FIFA officials guilty of racketeering, wire fraud, money laundering, and more. The award of the Russia 2018 and Qatar 2022 World Cups are both still being investigated for bribery, despite former FIFA head Sepp Blatter's ban from international soccer. Investigations into his actions continue. He's no longer with us. Russia will be on center stage as its ability to deliver first-class stadiums this year will be the main focus. And as for Qatar, the bid process might even be reopened. Given that Russia is banned from the IOC, will there be a spillover for the World Cup in 2018? We'll see. But will Americans notice? That's number 4. Number 3, Pyeongchang 2018 will dominate the early part of the year. Stories include the lackluster promotion of the games and low ticket sales. Now, the story also includes Russia's IOC ban and North Korea's participating in the games in a limited way, and maybe this is ping-pong diplomacy 50 years later. Sponsorship activity that has not taken a direct hit despite below-average attendance and geopolitical instability. 3 years ago, Korean-based multinational technology Samsung signed a $92 million deal to sponsor the 18 games, adding domestic sponsors like this to the mix, an important strategy for the host country. Overall, look for political storylines to go toe-to-toe with Olympic sports in Pyeongchang. That's number 3. Number 2, in the television world, cord cutting for a la carte programming will inch deeper into mainstream consumer behavior. It's estimated, for example, that ESPN has lost more than 13 million subscribers in the past 6 years. A key reason the network is adding an OTT platform in 2018. And while cord cutting affects the entire TV spectrum, its impact on sports is significant, since sports is widely viewed as the last bastion of appointment viewing. The NFL and elsewhere, the distinction between television viewing and mobile viewing will almost be completely eradicated in 2018. Remember my interview with Mark Lazarus. And look for new measurement systems to take hold that will evaluate and measure total eyeballs, good for advertisers, programmers, and networks alike. Drum roll. Why wouldn't it be? Number 1, the NFL continues to polarize in 18, and despite some opposition, League Commissioner Roger Goodell just signed a $200 million 5-year contract extension. NFL revenue up 2%. Commitment to tri-casting. The league just signed a $2 billion streaming deal with Verizon. Added ad inventory and more. Poor ratings, poor attendance, political issues like kneeling will continue. But the NFL remains the closest thing to appointment viewing media has these seasons. And with some new blood in the playoffs, stadiums in the works in Vegas and L.A., and the league's 100th season beckoning in 2019, look for the league to resume business as usual as America's gold standard. You can agree, you can disagree, let us know. But the bottom line is 18 will be an interesting and turbulent year. College football headlines next week, NHL All-Star after that, NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, Daytona, baseball. We're all ready for that in 2018. Sign up, Google Play, Audio and Boom, Apple Podcast. We'd like to thank Bob Stoops. We'd like to thank Dan Martin and Tanner Simpkins for putting this together. And most of all, we'd like to thank you for entering the new year with us. Beyond the Scoreboard, join us next week when we go beyond the scoreboard and deal with the $1 trillion business of sports. I'm Rick Horrow. Thanks for listening.